The NVIC asked Steve to come testify in Sacramento. That experience we had that day was my red pill moment, as people say. I actually got sick for about 2 months afterwards.
Wow.
I lost faith in California government, in the media, which was lying about what happened when we were in the room. And he said, I'm seeing a pattern that, doctors were always giving kids Tylenol before and after their vaccines.
Right.
And he said, I'm seeing more damage. And so he started experimenting with giving, potentized Tylenol as a treatment for autism.
Oh, wow.
A lot of alternative therapists knew that there was some kind of issue with Tylenol.
Today's special guest is Amy Lansky. She's the author of 3 amazing, extraordinary books. I read part of her first book, Impossible Cure. It's about homeopathy. And she just read through her third book, Living in Synchrony. And I have to say, I just feel like my mind is blown. And it's not just in terms of the amount of information and the depth of truth that she reached into in all of her books, but I think most importantly, it's the foundational worldview, the understanding of existence, of life in general. I come from a science background, and I've always felt and also increasingly lament for the lack of better word, the fact that science and medicine is so reductionist to the point of arrogance. If we cannot detect something with our sensory organs or whatever instrumentation with very, very limited capabilities, we just flat out deny its existence. And that's very, very harmful in terms of, our understanding of either the physical realm or the spiritual one. To me personally, the most important takeaway from Amy's work is, that's humility to understand the world as a whole. And of course, her work is much more richer, much more in depth than that. So without further ado, I will just let you introduce yourself to my audience, who you are, what you do, and the reasons behind why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay, thank you so much, Scarlett. It's great to talk to you and great to talk to your audience too. So, well, it's a long story.
I know you've had such an amazing life experience.
Yeah. So, like you, I started as a scientist, and I have a Ph.D. from Stanford in computer science, which I got over 40 years ago. And is that right? Yes, it's true. And I was one of the early women in computer science, and I was a researcher in Silicon Valley, and my husband is too. We both have PhDs in computer science, and I lived in Silicon Valley for 45 years. And so that was my world. I was definitely completely into conventional medicine, although I was always kind of a spiritually minded person. And then I have 2 sons who are now 34 and 37. And my younger son, Max, was one of the early statistics of autism. Mm-hmm. So he was born in 1991, which was the year actually when the rate started going up, because that was also the year when they started giving the hepatitis B vaccine right after birth. I didn't even know they'd given it to him. It only came out.
It just gave it to him without you knowing it?
No, yeah, I did not know until he went to college, and they wanted him to take a titer test for hepatitis B, and he did, and they said, oh, you've had the vaccine. Not that I knew. So anyway, so who knows? Anyway, when he was, I'll go briefly into the story of what happened to him, but it's now a classic story and familiar to, unfortunately, more and more parents, that I believe he was actually, who knows, maybe the hepatitis B, but injured by the MMR vaccine. That's when he really started declining. And he was sort of in the category of a slow drift off into leaving us,
So what age was that?
2.5. Okay. He started like not responding to his name. He was he was in a kind of a preschool kind of thing, and um, he just would he was not playing with the other children. He would just sit in the room and look at things in the room. He couldn't sit still.
Mhm.
And at that time, this was not a familiar thing. This was like 1994, and thankfully, a friend of ours told us to go. He said take him to this speech and language person to start there.
Mhm.
And he told us, oh, like people started hinting that he was autistic, but this was relatively unknown at that point. Later, when he was getting better, his doctor told us he was autistic. I can't believe this happened. Anyway, um, so he went into the speech and language thing when he was, I guess he was 3. And he tested eligible for special education benefits in California. We were in Silicon Valley. And then in January of 95, so he was 3.5, I read a paper about homeopathic treatment for ADD and other kind of similar behavior problems.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Also, before that point, I heard about the Feingold diet, which was like the only kind of dietary intervention that was known at that time. And he was addicted to milk, and that was one of the major food groups. He just this was his thing. He wanted to be drinking milk all the time with his bottle,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and so we took him off of milk, and that was when he started being came out of the fog, but he started being more classically autistic with echolalia and stuff like that. So anyway, we started homeopathy when he was 3.5. Oh, I had read a paper about homeopathy in Mothering magazine, which since that time has become much more conventional medicine oriented, but at the time it
Mhm.
was very alternative. And I had a friend who was an acupuncturist, and she told me about a homeopath, and we were one of his first patients actually.
Wow.
And we were just God really intervened for us. I knew right away when I read this paper, which was like 4 pages long, that this was
Mhm.
what we were going to try, and my husband agreed. And within a week or two, after maybe a week after we started, his therapist said to us, "What did you do?" He was able to suddenly follow 2 commands, like she would say, "Pick up the red ball," and
Uh-huh.
then and suddenly he could do 2 commands that she
Uh-huh.
and it was a very slow. This is a slow thing, um, but within a few months after we began, it was really noticeable. We even did a scientific experiment because we noticed there was a shift when we changed the potency because he was on these LM potencies and yeah, I my husband changed it. I didn't know when. We were writing notes, and it was exactly followed the pattern we had noticed. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Wow.
So that convinced us, and over time we all started using homeopathy. It was just miraculous. By the time he was 5, no, actually, by the time he was uh, 4.5 or 4, let's see, yeah, 4.5. The therapist said, "You don't need me anymore," and and then
Wow.
when he was 5, he lost his qualification for special education benefits, and
Uh-huh.
the whole thing was wonderful.
Mhm.
Interesting when he was 5, and that's when he was supposed to get the 5-year-old all these vaccines.
Mhm.
Uh, I said no, but they insisted he get this TB test.
Mhm.
For some reason, they missed, and he had it twice. It's an injection in California, and he started regressing at that point. So we,
5.
yeah. So then we put him back on this remedy, and he
Mhm.
got it, and
Wow.
it was a many-year process. And by the time he was, let's say, third grade, fourth grades, sometimes he was not following oral instructions, but we just kept changing remedies, and
Mhm.
he was fine. When he went through puberty, he went like everything changed. He went from like a B student to an A student and very popular in high school. And
Mhm.
um, it was it's a kind of thing where you have to be very patient. A lot.
Yeah.
I speak a lot. I've spoken at conferences and everything about homeopathy conferences about what happened to him. But so and parents write to me because my first book, Impossible Cure, came out 22 years ago in
Mhm.
2003.
Mhm.
Um, so just to put it a long story short, when this happened to us, various things were going on in my lab. I worked at NASA, as a researcher in computer science, and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to stop working because I made some money in Silicon Valley, and my husband was still working, and I started studying homeopathy, and I realized, okay, then now I was going to devote myself to letting people know what happened to us. So I
Mm-hmm.
wrote a book, and it was instantly popular. I mean, I'm still selling tons. It's been translated now into several languages,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just a book about what happened with my son. It's a general introduction to homeopathy. It's not a how-to book. It doesn't tell you what remedies to take
Yeah.
or what. It's really everything you want to know about the history and science and practice and philosophy of homeopathy. And it has a chapter about what happened to my family, and
Mm-hmm.
it has lots of illustrative cases, real life cases from people from around the world for
Yes.
many diseases. And it's used as a first year textbook in a lot of homeopathy schools. And
Wow. That's
um,
amazing. Yeah, it is very, very beautifully written. I loved
yeah,
listening to your audiobook. Yeah.
thank you. And there is an audiobook and a Kindle book. And so that was that story. And I got involved for many years in the health, in like promoting homeopathy. I was on the board of the National Center for Homeopathy. I helped pass a health freedom law in California that was really focused on enabling alternative practitioners to practice legally. Because
Mm-hmm.
at that time, they could be accused of practicing medicine without a license. So
Mm-hmm.
I testified in Sacramento about it, and anyway, that passed. As we all know, health freedom became more focused on our freedom as patients. so and then as time went by, I started focusing on really trying to understand how this, like, higher spiritual realities about how homeopathy works, about the energy bodies, about,
Mm-hmm.
I sort of went off in a different direction, which
Mm-hmm.
is the second book, which is more about consciousness, meditation, psychic phenomena, synchronicity. And I view homeopathy in a way as a medicine that works through synchronicity. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
explain that. And then over time, about 10 years ago, I I started over the years have learned many different types of alternative therapy
Mm-hmm.
for myself too, because homeopathy didn't always work, although it's our number one thing we use. And I just started realizing I wanted to help people understand the breadth of alternative medicine and what types of therapies were useful when.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then I thought it was a book about this Hawaiian thing called Huna. I thought it was about that. I really didn't understand exactly what this book was about. And then I had a kind of a first draft when COVID hit.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was just curious. Both you and your husband come from like a very solid scientific background. Most scientists are very like literal minded. They do not easily get taken by something like homeopathy because there's like the remedies have no substance in it. So how did you like kind of reorient your mindset to adopt this whole new way of thinking?
I mean, you're right. It's very somehow it wasn't a challenge because at the time we were really searching to help our son, right?
Hmm.
Now, I can just tell you that I think homeopathy is more scientific than conventional medicine
I agree. I agree.
because there's a specific rule of therapeutics. Uh, there's no rule about what will treat what in conventional medicine. It's like whatever will work, and that's why it's called allopathy, which means other suffering, anything. It means any kind of treatment. Homeopathy means similar suffering, and it's based on this rule. It works, and there's actually the rule is if a substance can cause some symptoms, then it can treat those symptoms in a patient.
Hmm.
And it's also used on non-dilute things. For example, when people give their kid Ritalin for hyperactivity, this is this kind of toxic application of the law of similars, because what is Ritalin at speed? It's like makes, if you gave Ritalin to a non-hyperactive person, that would make them hyperactive,
Right,
right?
right.
So this is
Mhm.
why it treats
Yeah, it's
hyperactivity.
a stimulant.
It's
Yeah.
similar to the state of hyperactivity. It's there's actually many conventional medicines that were adopted from homeopathic treatment. Various heart medications, like nitroglycerin, uh,
Hmm.
were developed by homeopaths because what is nitroglycerin? It's like explosive substance, and it's used, but it's not used as the explosive substance. It's used in highly dilute form, and of course, even doctors still give patients nitroglycerin for their heart ailments. Um, so if you read my book, you'll see how scientific homeopathy is, and you're right. The thing that stops people is the fact that usually, almost always, these remedies are extremely diluted. Why?
Hmm.
Because otherwise they're usually made from substances that could cause problems. So when they're diluted, but they're not simply diluted, there's this process called succussion, which is not alternately diluting and shaking. And it's only in the past like 20 years that water scientists and physical scientists are beginning to study how this could possibly be working. And a lot of them, some of them Nobel Prize winners, uh, when they show that you can take a substance, even an allopathic drug, and put it through this process of dilution and succussion, which homeopaths call potentization,
Hmm.
then it preserves the action of the original substance, even if it's like diluted beyond Avogadro's number.
Hmm.
So, uh, so scientists who've entered this arena have often just had their careers destroyed. Why? Because I've written many papers about all these things. Because just think, if you could take any drug and do this, then big pharma wouldn't make any money anymore. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so so they don't want homeopathy to succeed. In the early days, like 50 years ago, they tried to keep homeopaths from practicing. Of course, homeopathy was huge medicine in the 1800s. I talk all
Hmm.
about that
Hmm.
in the United States. And so now they're trying to get rid of our remedies, get rid of our access to remedies through the FDA, which was established by a homeopath. The FDA was established
How
by
ironic.
this is a sidebar because my husband also became in our quest for health freedom over the years. I was always a theoretical computer scientist. He
Hmm.
is more of one of the best programmers in the world in his day. And So people started writing to me when my book came out. And somebody wrote to me and said, there's this thing called VAERS, the vaccine thing.
Yeah, so he worked for that.
Well, at the time when the law was passed in 1986, they were required to start collecting the VAERS data, but they
Hmm.
put it
Yeah.
online or make it accessible to anybody. It was just a bunch of files at the CDC that
Hmm.
were publicly available, but
Hmm.
you'd have to be a wizard to make sense of it because it was many files broken up into this and that. So somebody
Yeah.
wrote to me. They were involved in a court case. Can you figure out if my kid got a hot lot, which is a lot that caused many injuries?
Hmm.
So over the weekend, my husband downloaded all this data and he combined it into one usable database. And in fact, this guy's kid had a hot lot. But anyway, within a year or so, within just a few months, this was beginning of the internet. It was just beginning. This was 20 years over. It was like right after my book came out, so it was like 21 years ago. My husband created the first website to look at the VAERS data. And
Wow.
today they
What is that website?
it's on medalerts.org, medalerts.org. But if people go to, let's say, the NVIC, the National Vaccine Information Center, nvic.org, it will take you there. And he now is on the board of the NVIC.
I see.
So we've been aware of vaccine injuries since this all began, which was like around 2003, 2004. A
Hmm.
couple of years later, the CDC made their own website, which is called Wonder. But even the CDC researchers, we've been told, and we've seen like shots of their of presentations. They use our Steve's database because it's more complete and it's easier to use. So and so then CHD, we know all the players in the health freedom movement because of uh, that, because of his work in that. He's always says, I'm not a doctor, I don't comment. My whole role is to download this data and
Mm-hmm.
make it available to other people.
Yes.
So when COVID hit, he used to get about 50,000 hits a day before COVID on this database, on
Mm-hmm.
this website. COVID comes, 500,000 hits a day.
Wow.
And that's when he started even being more involved. He's paid for all of this all these years, by the way. And it's a humongous database.
Mm-hmm.
And so that caused our involvement in the greater health freedom movement. I had already been involved to try to legalize homeopathy in California, but and so in 2000, this is relevant to all you Californians, which I am no longer. Uh, in 2015, when we lost our philosophical and
Mm-hmm.
religious exemption,
Exemption. Mm-hmm.
The NVIC asked Steve to come testify in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went back to Sacramento because I had already had my experience there. And that experience we had that day was my red pill moment, as people say. Because I, I, it was so shocking what happened that day
Uh-huh.
that I was sick. Actually, got sick for about 2 months afterwards.
Wow.
I lost faith in California government, in
Mm-hmm.
the media, which was lying about what happened when we were in the room where it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It really, it was a horrible experience, and it changed my view of reality in many ways. It was there were like hundreds, maybe 1,000 people there trying to with children who've been injured or killed, including doctors, by
Mm-hmm.
vaccine injuries.
Wow.
uh, and they just rubber stamped it right in front of us and
Uh-huh.
called parents out of the room who were like upset, and the whole thing was after hours of parents getting up, and they just rubber stamped it right in front of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as if you didn't exist, right?
Yeah, and then like the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle wrote something, I can't remember, that was false about what had happened. I had subscribed to that newspaper for like 20 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
canceled my subscription. And so it was a shock. And so what happened with COVID was just more of the same, more of the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gotten much worse. Like this year we passed a number of bills that just it's just horrendous. They take away our all the freedoms, and they're Trump proofing everything. Like they just passed AB 144 to kind of stonewall everything that's going on. All the health reforms that's going on in on the federal level. So like it's not going to affect us in any way, shape, or form. They'll continue to add more medical mandates and censorship and surveillance, everything. And they're passing a bill that's going to curtail so-called misinformation. Like if we spread misinformation, we can get fined upwards to like $1 million. It's just getting so much worse. Like California is just becoming the country that I came from, which is China. It's
Which
just,
is why we left. I got to tell you, I lived in California 45 years. I moved there in 1977.
yeah.
It
Well,
was
that's
like
the
of
era.
my generation, that was like the dream location, right?
Yeah.
It was like
Uh-huh.
we were all like nerdy hippies, and it was wonderful. The heyday of the beginning of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephen, our house, which we had a beautiful house out in the country, was the party house of Silicon Valley in the 80s. We
Wow.
and I know a lot of those people. They were my colleagues.
Uh-huh.
They went to Stanford with me, and so come COVID, they always, we got into homeopathy, we got into all this. All of our friends knew Steve was doing the work on the their
Mm-hmm.
data, but like, oh, Amy and Steve, they're crazy alternative, blah blah. You know, Suddenly they're like, all COVID comes, and they say you got to get vaccinated, and we're going. Are you kidding? We were like the first people in the United States outside the CDC who saw the data coming in of the
Mm-hmm.
vaccine injuries from the COVID vaccine. After in mid 2021, it was clear that we had to leave. It was hard. Let me tell you, we lived in our house for 38 years.
I
It
know.
was, it was, and I'm not young, and it was. We thought we'd die in that house. It was out in the country. It was up in the mountain. Do you live in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was in Portola Valley, one of the most beautiful places,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. Amazing.
10, 15 minutes from Stanford, up in in the foothills,
Yeah.
and so but our friends wouldn't have anything to do with us. Our neighbors would run away when they saw us, and
The crazy couple.
it was like getting crazy. But interestingly, what really convinced us was one of our friends is the chief science officer of Microsoft.
Uh-huh. Wow.
He's also an MD, PhD in computer science, and he's an MD from Stanford. And
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't as afraid of us because they believed the vaccine worked. And they invited us to come up to their summer home up in Seattle, outside Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't hug us, but we stayed in their house, which most was verboten for most people who wouldn't even meet with us outside.
Yeah.
And,
The only unvaccinated couple.
so we drove up to, in the summer of 2021, we drove up to Seattle, and leaving the minute you get out of the Bay Area, but all California, it's like, oh my God, it's a different world. It was like, is everybody living in a psychotic delusion? Because the Bay Area was like the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming back from that trip, we went, wow, maybe we really have to leave. So in September of 21, we got in our Prius with a roof box, and we embarked on we basically drove the country, staying in hotels for about 7 months because we weren't going to move just anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
And
Find a place
and
that you feel like it fits you, right?
so we went back and forth cross country there and back, and then we came back and we thought we'd give it 6 more months in California, and within a month I couldn't take it anymore. It had
Mm-hmm.
even gotten worse. And interestingly, we went to a doctor's appointment, the skin doctor, at December of 21, and she says, I'll see you next year. We said, no, we're leaving California. And she said, that's a good idea. And a lot of people who had to live in masks all the time started saying, oh, I wish I could get out of here. You are so lucky you get to leave here. I mean, it was like really surprising. So, and in March of 22, we got back on the road. By July, we bought our house here in Greenville, South Carolina, a wonderful place. And then we went back to California and luckily sold our house in 2 months. And so we've been here since September 22, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really wonderful. I mean, they did shut down, but they actually by the summer of 2020, I think they just opened it up.
Yeah,
So
that's
anyway, that experience, and I started writing papers like looking for America, finding America. That experience shifted my view of my third book. So we could talk
mhm.
about my third book now.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. There's just so much information, and a lot of them is just so brand new and mind blowing to me. Yeah, do talk about how you started. Like you said, you started writing it like over 10 years ago, and you didn't know where you were going, what the direction it was taking you. Right? It's like this is like a quest, a journey for you. It's not, you didn't start with a clear intention what you're gonna write, how you're gonna play it out, but it just kind of your life took you on this journey to the completion of your third book.
Up to about 2020, when before COVID hit, um, I had this idea of the book, of being, I had learned all about the energy bodies. By this point, I had studied a lot of esoteric thought.
Mhm.
So in homeopathy, we talk about the vital force, which is the energy force that's really controlling your physical body. Uh,
Mhm.
and in Chinese medicine, they call it qi or
Mhm.
ki or prana. In Indian medicine, almost all systems know that there's this energy body uh,
Mhm.
that is the ultimate controller of your physical body. And,
Mhm.
and I view homeopathy as primarily working on the etheric body. So the
Mhm.
terms I use for these bodies are like are commonly known um, names. So the physical in English, and the physical body, the etheric body, but then there's even higher energy bodies. So I describe all these energy bodies and what their role is and what their function is. So above the etheric body, there's the astral body, which is this emotional body, the mental body, which is the rational kind of symbolic oriented part of you, and then the causal body, which is this, connection to God. And,
Mhm.
when I wrote my second book, I studied various esoteric teachers like Rudolf Steiner. And so some of your listeners, who if they send their kids to Waldorf schools, it's based on
Mhm.
the teachings of Steiner
Yeah.
and this teacher Gurdjieff. They all talk about these higher energy bodies. And
Mhm.
so I realized over time, and I was learning all these various different kinds of alternative therapies, not as a practitioner, but as actually as a user, and like learning about them, and of course homeopathy too. So I realized I could categorize all these therapies according to these energy bodies.
Mhm.
And one of my first impetuses is that when I turned 60, I'm turning 70 in less than 2 months. But
Wow. Happy
when
birthday. Happy early birthday.
thanks. Uh, when I turned 60, I started developing problems with chronic insomnia. And of course, homeopathy is my first thing, and it didn't really address it. And over time, I found this therapy that was really what I consider an emotional body, astral body therapy. So the initial book did have this organization, which was describing all the various energy bodies and reviewing all these treatments that address, a little bit about many of these therapies, but
Mhm.
also guidelines that in to help you figure out, well, where is the root to my whatever the ailment is. And there's various signs that it really is a physical thing, or really is an etheric thing, or
Mhm.
so so I did create this organization for the book. But after we went, well, obviously I'd written the first draft, and then COVID hit, and it was not a time to publish a book about alternative medicine. So then we went through this whole 3-year process of moving, and then I realized I also started writing about why we left Silicon Valley, about the rise of transhumanism, which is the merger of man and machine, which
Mhm.
I had been thinking about for many years because people I knew were very into that. And I realized, you know what, we're entering a future now where of real danger of people not understanding that by altering their bodies, they could lose their connection to their higher spiritual
Mhm.
self,
Yeah.
which has more power for healing than all the drugs of allopathy combined.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the 2020 the pandemic was really a turning point for that acceleration of transhumanism. Like the government was, they used this opportunity to seize control and to just like really accelerate the process. All of those totalitarian control was legitimized in that process. And I think the transhumanism, it was, it was like accelerating already, but at that point it just became, kind of mainstream, and you have no right to go against it.
Right, right. And so all of this kind of crystallized in my mind.
Yeah.
This is why not only did we leave because of the vaccine, but we left because what was happening in Silicon Valley and my alma mater, Stanford, epitomized this very dark thing that's going on. So
Hmm.
Stanford is now all about tech and biotech, engineering our body. And I remember it was before COVID. I was driving home and listening to Stanford radio, and they were talking to a CRISPR, gene editing scientist, and they said, "Could you grow a tail on a human?" And I said, "Yes, very soon we'll be able to do that." And
Yeah, it's just
and I
it's like it's
almost
child's play
threw
fun.
up in my car right there. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
naivete, because you know what this is going to be used for. It's not going. They say, "Oh, it's all to help disease." The military will use it to create super soldiers with who knows what.
Mhm,
Anyway, it's happening. I
mhm,
mean, so so we had to get out because it was a very toxic atmosphere
mhm,
spiritually. So then I realized, okay, this book is not just about healing, about the energy bodies. It's about saving, getting people to realize that they could compromise their connection to spirit, to their energy bodies.
mhm,
And in fact, I hope it's not true that the vaccine is part of this, but certainly immersion in the world of online and AI and all this can separate us. And I just recently been reading an article. It was actually an interview of Rudolf Steiner back in 1923, where he talks about the merge. He talking specifically about. I'm going to write an article about it, actually, uh,
mhm,
about how losing our connection to our bodies to merge with this machine-like existence will rob us of our spiritual and high
mhm,
energy
mhm,
bodies. So it's very dangerous. So this is why I then named my book, okay, Living in Synchrony. This title came to me even before I wrote it. It says, and the subtitle is um, A Guide to Healing and Reclaiming Our Powerful Natural Humanity. Because I want to warn people that not only can they heal better through these other alternative means, that they don't have to become victims of the medical machine,
mhm.
which is failing anyway. I mean, there are miracles of modern medicine, but usually you can do so much more with these other therapies.
Yes, yeah.
Uh, and that they're not just prey to this, and in the future they may have to heal themselves. They may have to have these tools to heal themselves, but
Mhm.
also to warn them, don't get sucked in to what's happening in our society because they could lose their very humanity.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
very worried about it.
Yeah, I think all of these things play a role in depriving us of our humanity. And all of those medicine, all the vaccines and the EMF, everything that modern life kind of now is depending on is actually driving us further and further away from our spirituality, from our natural state of being.
which is why children and people are so depressed because
Yes,
they're losing. Humans need this. They
hmm,
need this spiritual connection energy with each other.
exactly.
uh and so I mean, I gotta say, I never thought I'd live in the American South. But one reason I love it, because I was grew up in Buffalo, New York, and I moved to California. And most of Americans have, like Westerners and Yankees, have this negative view of the South. But the beauty of the South, first of all, it's less racist than California now. I think they've come to terms with their racist past.
Yeah.
But it's people are still very religious.
Hmm.
They really believe, and they're still connected as human beings. They're so kind. Like when we came here and we moved into a really beautiful, wealthy neighborhood, which in California would be snobby city,
Yeah.
they brought us gifts. They made parties for us when we moved in. So we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. So
Yeah.
it's like they're still human beings, not that they're not connected to their phones all the time, but the comparison to Silicon Valley is very stark, very
Hmm.
stark.
Hmm.
And I think the thing that's saving them is their connection
Spirituality.
to God. So
Hmm.
people think about it what you might, but it's keeping them more natural human beings. I
Yeah.
mean, that is really the goal of this book. Is really, I view it as uh, these three books I wrote as a trilogy of
Hmm.
my own like exploration and growth.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
and learning all along. I keep learning. I want to share it with people.
Talk a little bit about vibration. I don't think everybody knows what vibration is and how they play a role in our life and why it is important, like probably the most fundamental thing in our life.
Well, I mean, even from a quantum physics point of view, um, all material particles are simply vibrations, uh, ultimately. And so, and our whole three-dimensional reality is just composed of vibrating subatomic particles. I'm not a physicist, but so this is even true from a conventional science point of view. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's also true, I believe, it's, and including our physical body, but it's also true at all the other energy bodies too.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly at the etheric level, just think about it. Just think EMFs. Okay, EMFs. What are they? Electromagnetic frequencies. They're vibrations.
But
We,
most people don't think they're harmful.
yeah, which is why flooding our like our houses, our bodies. I mean, like you can't even escape it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it's everywhere.
So, and I believe that a lot of the that it's interfering with our etheric bodies, which is a very vibrational realm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so this is why people are getting sick when they like live next to a cell tower or
Yeah.
with smart meters. Um, so, and I think that I've written many papers about the causes of autism. I think number one is too many vaccines, lots of vaccine injuries, but EMF might be number two, because it's just and the food. You know,
Okay, so you don't think the number two is Tylenol?
well, you know what? A long time ago, our homeopath said, I think he was noticing a pattern with his because of my book his practice became very autism oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And he says I'm seeing a pattern that doctors were always giving kids Tylenol before and after their vaccines,
Right.
and he said I'm seeing more damage with the kids who took Tylenol before and after the vaccines, which is
Mm-hmm.
a suppressive treatment. And so he started experimenting with giving potentized Tylenol as a treatment for autism.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this was probably 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think a lot of alternative therapists knew that there was some kind of issue with Tylenol. I mean, this is only now coming out, this latest thing. So because I think that I talk about, even in our common parlance, we go vibes. I'm getting bad vibes.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, you
In
know,
folk culture.
about that. We notice energy, vibration. Like you go into a place, feels good, doesn't feel good. Certain
Mm-hmm.
locations, it's the energy, it's the vibration of the place.
Yes.
Literally, I believe. And so, when you're in a bad state, you're in sort of a negative vibration. Now let's think about homeopathy. Uh, what are these remedies? They're essentially vibrations, and the law of similar says if the vibration of a substance matches your vibration, then it will shift you out of this negative vibration, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, this is even true in, let's say, these support groups, Alcoholics Anonymous. You sit with a group of alcoholic people, right? They're in a similar vibratory state.
Mm-hmm.
Being with them can be curative.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's working also through similarity and vibration. So,
Uh-huh.
so I do say in the beginning of the book, if you want to get healthier, become happier, change your vibration. It's not always so easy to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's at some level. I think this is operating everywhere from physical all the way up.
Yeah, so but you're saying, conventional science, conventional medicine also admit vibration is a thing. Why are they trying to deny that this is a thing that can heal you?
Yeah. Oh, I want to say one more thing. A new form of therapy that's become very popular is sound therapies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, like these sound bowl sessions, where you're listening to sounds and stuff,
Right. Mm-hmm.
which are vibrations. So why? Because big pharma is not going to make money on vibration.
Yeah, so it's all about profit. Yeah.
It's just it's like drugs. And
Mm-hmm.
how are these drugs developed? They're usually developed in not according to a system, but through a haphazard way. So let's say they give like, let's see, I think uh, so a lot of drugs were just developed for something else, and they gave it and they noticed some effect
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
elsewhere, like for acne or this or that, and then they just start giving it
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
that. So without a principle, so that's why it's called allopathy. And in fact, it was Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy, who named it allopathy.
Mm-hmm.
I think even conventional doctors may call it allopathy. I don't know, but certainly alternative medicine practitioners do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I actually really hate the term alternative practices. Like
yeah,
all
I do
of
too.
these other health modality, healing modalities, they're health traditions, from all over the world, and they have a proven track record for thousands of years. And all of a sudden, the Rockefeller medicine comes in, and they declare all of these to be alternative modalities. It's not fair to begin with.
I know, I know. So, and by the way, I like alternative better than complementary because
Yeah.
that makes it sound like it's just off on the side. It's like, hey, hi,
You want to say hi to Amy?
Hi, Amy.
hi, how are you?
Yeah, a little sick today.
One Chinese word, ni hao.
Yeah. 你好.
你好.
Okay. If you want to sit here, you can sit here for a little bit, but don't touch my things, okay? All right. Talking
How old
about
is he?
how old are you?
7.
7. I noticed in your book you were saying in how much suppression that allopathy, put on homeopathy, and in China, the Rockefeller medicine, they came into our
Really?
country, yeah, like around 100 years ago, and they started to claim, they are the orthodoxy medicine, and they are actually started to marginalize our own tradition.
I
And
did not know that.
yeah, they marginalize it, and they kind of, they sideline it, and they co-opt it. A lot of so-called Chinese medicine practitioners are not true Chinese medicine practitioners anymore. They kind of combine the two, and then claim it to be traditional Chinese medicine, but it's really not the case. And quite a lot of Chinese medicine practitioners are kind of viewed as cracks, and and a lot of them are, because they're not taught the way they should be taught.
Right.
So
I mean, by the way, that was another reason I wrote my first book, was because I wanted people to understand what homeopathy really is.
mhm.
Because first of all, in the media they call anything alternative homeopathy. That's not true. Homeopathy is the specific form of alternative medicine. But a lot of people just learn a few things and they just start throwing remedies at people, which can be very dangerous.
Yeah, they treat the remedies as if they were allopath
Yes.
medicine, right? Yeah, that's what that was actually my misguided understanding before I came around, like, just recently. I saw those little tubes of
Yes.
sugar
Yeah.
remedies.
The Poirot tube.
Yeah, and you can just buy them. I didn't know. Like, I think I also bought some, like, years ago to try to heal myself, and didn't work, of course, because it wasn't matched to my vibration. But that's how people get the wrong idea.
And they'll keep taking them, which can lead to problems.
Yeah.
You don't take it every single day. I mean, there's cases where you do, but it's this is why I also wrote my first book, so that people would be cautious and not and know really what homeopathy is.
Hmm.
It's so I teach what in the book, classical homeopathy, very conventional classical homeopathy. And new methods, there's more or less new methods and stuff, but a lot of people don't really know what they're doing. And people write to me from all over the world about their kids' cases. I'm not a practitioner. I was very briefly, but
Hmm.
I'm too neurotic to be a practitioner. Dealing with my own family's issues is enough for me. But I'm a researcher, and that's what I've always been. a writer and a researcher.
Yeah, that there's great value in that. I think we're called to do different things. I don't think I can be a practitioner either. I love to dig into literature. I love to dig into other people's work and disseminate the information that I find. I really find great solace in informing people around me. Though my influence is not great right now, I try to upscale that, but like just the things that I do have influence over, I just find very comforting. People around me, they no longer just listen to their doctors blindly. They, when their doctors recommend a drug or vaccine, they actually turn around and ask my opinion on it. That is very gratifying already.
Good for you, because it's very hard.
It's very hard. Yeah,
Over the
especially.
years, I've learned, like even like family members or friends, they know what I'm doing. If they come to me, yes, I'll tell them what I think. But you can't. It's very hard to tell people you really
Yeah.
should be like doing this or that.
Yeah, you can't just tell people what to do. Like what I do is just I share information. I share, the research that I do, and a lot of people just they just slowly come around. If I just tell them outright what to do, what not to do, they're just gonna show me, right? That's human nature.
I'm so impressed how your English is amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
How long have you been in the United States?
Over 20 years. Yeah,
Oh,
it's been a
okay.
long time. Yeah, and I've never been. I've never gone back. It's that's a traumatizing place for me. So ever since I came out, I didn't want to go back.
I do write also about like how we're going down this horrible path that China is
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Uh, I was in China in 1987,
Mm-hmm.
before the huge change, and
Mm-hmm.
when we like our tour bus was the only vehicle in
Mm-hmm.
Beijing. It was,
Yeah, they didn't have that many cars back
yeah.
then.
But I came away thinking, I don't want China to be our overlords, because the
Uh,
value of
yeah.
human life, no value for human life. So it
Yeah,
was,
unfortunately, we are, we really are on the trajectory of becoming that country, especially California and like several of the West Coast states, Oregon, Washington, California. We're just all banding up against the federal government right now.
I know, people mean well. They think they're doing the right thing. I've just learned so much by traveling the country and seeing this whole country. And I've lost a lot. I just want to be open to everybody and what they think, and all the different kinds of people in this country. And I love America now. Like grew up, in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, where like anti-war and blah blah blah. I was a total hippie, total Democrat, and this experience completely changed both of us. Where we see the how well-meaning actions can backfire and lead to decline, and unfortunately California is declining terribly, which is why so many people are leaving.
Yeah, kind of hard to understand for a lot of people, what the energy bodies are and what their functionalities are. And I think like people would be curious, like how, like if there's any method to detect the energy bodies. Like I know a lot of people are like literal minded. If they can't see, they can't hear, or they can't sense it, it's
Right,
hard to wrap their mind around the
right,
concept.
right. Well, certainly the etheric body is the most detectable to people, and uh, but like, okay, for example, people who have near-death experiences,
Hmm.
uh, they're physically dead, but they report that they still are themselves after they leave their bodies. And there's a lot of studies about all this, and so, which indicates that there's more to us than our physical bodies, because even if we're dead, brain dead,
Hmm.
there's part of us that leaves the body. And so these are the higher energy bodies. The etheric body, like, you can probably, I have exercises in the book to feel it. Um, so including, holding your hands and feeling the energy. And most people can feel this energy if they're open to it. But like, this is why these martial arts like qigong and tai chi and aikido, these are all the same thing. They're all based on power based on the energy body, not the physical body.
Yeah.
So
So can you do like maybe a demonstration how you kind of feel?
yeah. Close your eyes, and as you bring your hands together, you may feel kind of a tingling sensation.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you pull it apart, you may even feel like you go like this. It sort of feels like a pulling back and forth
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, I feel it.
Um,
So it's not just the airflow. It's
no, it's not heat. It's not just heat of your hands. I also give like things you can do to see it. But if you do any of these kind of things, like I like doing qigong, where you where you're getting the energy to flow in the circle and stuff. You can feel it. You can feel this energy flowing. And I categorize Chinese medicine, acupuncture, acupressure as an etheric medicine, because it's not working through. These needles are affecting the flow of the qi. They're not affecting. I mean, they do go into your body. It's not working in a physical way. I mean, Chinese practitioners know that.
Yeah, they talk about, it's when I was younger, it's just too esoteric to listen to what they talk about. It's very hard to comprehend, especially coming from a science background. It's all about what you see, what you hear, like, it's very literal. And when they talk about chi and all of those abstract ideas, it's very hard to comprehend. But now that I'm getting into it, and especially I think in your book you kind of visualize the abstract. You make it like a little bit more tangible, even though the ideas, the concepts are very abstract. I do highly recommend my audience to get this book and read it for yourself. It's very helpful to understand why some of the things that happen to us, and how we can kind of orient ourselves correctly to in order to seek healing, because all of the allopathic medicines, they're not designed to really help us to get out of our physical ailments.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I know we don't have time to really dig into the book, which I really wish we would. But there's just so your work is just so rich and in depth and so broad. It's really hard to kind of pin down one thing. And yeah, it would be very helpful to read through this book. And if you want to share, a few takeaway points from the book, that'd be great too.
Okay. So first of all, I've combined all my previous websites into one. So it's all under my name. So amylansky.com, amylansky.com. But if you like go to impossiblecure.com, it'll take you there. And the place to get all my stuff is on Amazon. And I am working on an audiobook, which should come out in January, of this final book. This my
That's
third.
awesome. I love to listen to audiobooks.
Really close friends here now is a mom who also is an autism mom and very severely impacted kid, and she became an expert on glutamate, and she had a website, and then she found homeopathy, and her kid was completely cured. He was very severe.
Wow.
And so now she's starting to be homeopath. Anyway, she's like 40, so she's like giving me more. She says, Amy, you got to do audiobooks now. Nobody's reading books anymore. So, okay.
It helps. Yeah. Especially for a busy mom, we can just listen when we do dishes and do housework. Yeah.
But in the meantime, the book is there. Don't forget, and a Kindle version too. But so takeaways. I guess my main takeaway is that there is. I have a newsletter. My homeopathy newsletter is always called "There's Hope with Homeopathy," and I think there's even more hope than that.
So you can just sign up for the newsletter on your website?
Yes, yeah. So, all my old newsletters are on the website, the
Mhm.
homeopathy ones, but like
Okay.
I haven't been writing as much since I moved here. I have many articles about society and stuff like that recently, but
Mhm.
there's hope. People, you're not trapped by conventional medicine.
Mhm.
You take charge of who you are and your healing. It's really hard to do. It's even hard for me because we hear all these messages from society and the media. But you don't have to be stuck in suffering in the way you think you do, because there's a lot of tools out there. And don't just confine yourself to say, well, I do this and that. You may need to look beyond the tools that you're currently using.
Mhm.
Um, and there's just a lot more power to who we are as human beings than you probably realize.
Yeah, we have actually a lot more tools at our disposal than the media let us know. And I think when we reach beyond allopathic medicine, we are actually much freer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not just talking about these more energy body things. I have
Mhm.
a whole chapter about physical things that are
Mhm.
alternative, including, of course, diet and
Right.
detoxification and herbalism and movement therapies, posture therapies. Uh,
Mhm.
there's so much. There's just so much out there, and the question is, how do you know what to use? Just there's just so much more. So this book will help you introduce you to some new ideas.
Mhm.
Of course, I think my biggest section, I have 10 pages about homeopathy because that's my expertise. But
Yeah.
I probably cover, I should add up how many, but at least 50 kinds of therapies in the book.
Mhm. Yeah, I do want to point out in this book, Amy categorized like what kind of ailments come from what kind of which energy body or physical body, and what kind of tools you can seek out. So
Right.
it's a very helpful handbook for that as well.
Yeah. And it's not specific to like this particular disease, it's the characteristics of
Yes.
the disease. Did it begin with an emotional event? Is it affecting your thought processes? Is
Mhm.
it chronic versus acute? Is it an ongoing thing that you just gonna take medicine for the rest of your life type of thing?
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
is it it's those kind of things. I call them, this is a computer word, heuristics, but they're sort of like guidelines that help you figure out where is the root of this problem.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Yeah, that's fantastic. Is there anything else you would add, or anything, any good questions that I forgot to
about
ask?
it, I think that if you read my book, please do write a review on Amazon. It's just came out, and it's like it needs to get out there. um,
Mhm.
and I think that you won't be disappointed.
I certainly am not disappointed, to say the least. Yeah. Are you intending it to be translated to other languages?
The way that I have several translations of my first book: Spanish,
Yeah.
German, Arabic, Korean, but they're done by a foreign publisher.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
so what happens is they come to me and then buy the rights to market the translation. I'm very
I.
happy. It took me years to get somebody to do the Spanish translation. So
Uh-huh.
because it's really important. So there is a Spanish translation of Impossible Cure. So if people
Mhm.
are interested in doing a translation of any of my books, just write to me. So usually, in general, it's been homeopaths from foreign countries who want a textbook
Mhm.
in their
Right.
language. A lot of the time, it's that
Mhm.
because it is used as a textbook. So
Mhm.
and please spread the word. Uh, you know, and let me know if you want me to be on any podcasts. I'm really in this process now of trying to get the word out about the book. And
Mhm.
now learned from my friends who are younger than me that podcasts are the way to go. That was
Yeah.
not the case
And
22 years ago, which they didn't exist.
a podcast is it's our way of kind of combating the centralized media, which is all about promoting pharmaceutical companies, promoting the industry. So that's why we gotta we got to form our own things and disseminate the information that we deem to be true.
Yeah. So spread the word, send it everywhere. Hopefully, YouTube won't censor it.
Well, YouTube is doing much better this year. I don't know what they're gonna do going forward, but last year I had an episode with another platform. They took it down like within hours because I talked about vaccines for just a few minutes. The podcast itself wasn't about vaccines. It was about election. But I did speak a little bit about vaccines, and the whole video got taken down.
Yeah. Interestingly, Steve's testimony in 2015, which was the government hearing,
Mm-hmm.
it was
took it
online. It was online for years, and they
Uh-huh.
took it down like a year ago or a year or two ago. And so, and he wasn't able. He had the recording, so he put it back up, and they haven't taken it down yet. I was shocked. That's a government hearing, right?
Yeah, it's getting easier for them to do because of AI. It's they can detect anything that they don't approve, and then they just take it down, or they shadow ban. I think right now, because of the new administration, they don't actively censor that much, but they do a lot of shadow banning and restricting the views and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing what's going on. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeful. I mean, thank God for RFK.
I know.
And
Yeah.
God protect him. And
Right now, it's our perfect time to get active and really make some noise.